Hi everyone, my name is Noah Royale. I'm here with
AfricaUSARadio.com, home of African Gospel. Ekaya Beat.
Welcome everyone to the first episode of Divine Calling Unleashed. I am your host Noah Royale and this is Africa USA Radio. Today on our topic, we dive deep into the journey of one of South African businesswomen, and she's also an interior designer. Her name is Grieta PIKE. Grieta, thank you for joining us.
Great pleasure. Thanks for inviting me.
Yes, can you please just take us back to your childhood, growing up in the Eastern Cape? How was it? How was your experience?
I grew up in the Eastern Cape, in the Sundays River Valley. I went to school where agriculture was one of the subjects.
Yeah.
It was the best time of my life. Grew up between orange trees, very close to the Addo Elephant Park. The farmers used to send oranges in those days to the elephants, and I would, behind my father's back, get onto the back of the tractor, go with, and I would hear the elephants snorting in the juice of the oranges, and they started running from far. So today I'm not very scared of an elephant, although I
We're scared of them at that time.
I must actually be. No, I'm not scared of an elephant.
Wow.
Yeah.
So also you were one of the top psychology students at Stellenbosch University. So what does that experience help you when it comes to your career and your aspirations?
I was certainly not a top student because of myself. I just dated right.
Yeah.
My husband was extremely dedicated. He sat in the library 5 days a week. If we had to go out on a Friday night, we would go the Saturday morning to the library, and I got so bored. I had to study my psychology. I ended up being chosen to become a psychometric test user in my final year, and that caused me to end up at the SABC because those years they used to test everybody. There were about 6,000 employees at that time, and I ended up in their personnel department.
Wow. So in the personnel department, what were you dealing with? What was the work that you were doing? Because is it about interviewing people, placing people for employment?
Exactly that. I was responsible for all the women that was employed by the SABC.
Wow.
I spent my mornings interviewing, also meeting the different department heads to find out what their needs were, and then I would do psychometric testing in the afternoons.
Wow. So you know, there's something about people these days, especially in this kind of generation, technology, literally people can fake anything on their CVs. So as a personnel, how will you know if like the things that people put on their CVs is actually the right thing? Did you have to go through talent? Did you have to dig talent? Were you able to see talent when you see it? Or was there any other method?
What happens when you look at the CV is obviously you're investigating the gaps. You also look at how long did somebody work at one company, and if they were too up and down, you become suspicious. And you have a sixth sense while you talk to people. But the interesting thing is I did do the promotions, and I would always recommend candidates to the department heads who were going to do the promotions. And looking on the CV, I would always guess who would get the post, but it never worked like that, because it's not only your IQ that counts. It's also your social IQ, it's your emotional IQ. What's important on a CV is leadership. If you display that, if you show that you're stable, you don't jump from one job to the other. That was important, but at the end of the day, it's who you are, it's how you get along with people, and your relationships with other people.
Wow. And you got married at the age of 20. I'm 33, not even yet married, not even thinking about it. How was your whole experience or your journey from that time?
you know what? When I ended up at Stellenbosch, our first speech in the hostel was that we should try to get a shiny little diamond on our fingers by the time that we leave. That was the fashion those years. And I succeeded. I got married. Was it the right thing? No, it was too young. You know, I should have dated many more people, and I should have made better choices. Not that I've made a bad choice, but I would have maybe chosen different if I didn't get married to the first love of my life.
Wow. And then how was your whole experience with him? Definitely you guys grew together. Because the fact that you guys married from the age of 20, definitely you guys grew together. What did the marriage make of you?
I've went out with him for 2 years, and I then stayed married to him for 2 years we went out, 32 years we were married. And after the marriage broke down, I went to different churches for 7 days praying about myself, what was my mistakes that I made. And I'm very happy that I went through that, because the one thing I realized was I became very used, to him. When he was studying, I knew his friends, the friends that became successful. I knew them. The first time we went overseas, I was with him. We grew together. So nothing was wow to me. While the secretaries at his company has never been overseas, I've been on all his overseas trips, mostly while we were married. We bought homes, we would gut it, we would decorate it. Lots of the homes that we did ended up in newspapers.
Wow.
So it's a journey we did together. We he made a contribution, I made a contribution. So I got very used to his lifestyle. If he bought clothes, I would go to the shops with him, especially in the beginning, while as he grew more successful, because of his work ethics, because of his culture. I told you what a dedicated student he was. He eventually got the prize as being the engineer in 40 years who made the biggest contribution to civil engineering in South Africa.
Yeah.
So other women was, wow, what an amazing man. I sat in the library with him. I was there when he got onto flights, 4 o'clock in the morning. I saw all that. And I think a man needs admiration, and I think they want to be admired. And I think that's where other women had an advantage over me. Because they were in awe of their boss. He was the CEO of a company with, if I have to guess, 700 people. And I was part of his life.
So you mentioned you mentioned about buying houses and renovating them together with him. So you are one of the top interior designers in Johannesburg that we know. So can you take me through that journey? What actually inspired you to pursue a career in interior design in particular?
To be honest about how I started, I one day went to the Oriental Plaza to buy a dress. And there was a gentleman sitting there, and I started talking to him, and I was friendly with him. And he said to me, you know what? I like your smile, and I need you to help me with something. That was in the days of apartheid. White people were the only people that could own homes, and this guy was Mr. Meow. He did the development for the Africa Mall, Waterfall Estates. I didn't know who he was. He was just a complete stranger to me. And he then said to me he wants to buy homes in Mayfair, close to the mosque. And he wants to buy the homes on the names of nominees. Won't I please go negotiate? So I bought 18 homes for him, which I assisted him with.
Yes.
And that enabled me to then take the sellers of these homes, find other accommodation for them, and I would find it in areas like Rissidale.
Wow.
But to them it was grand accommodation because it had 2 bathrooms, a TV room, etc. So I earned enough money to buy a house cash, and that did help, to eventually buy property, gut it, renovate it, furnish it and resell it.
Yeah.
And that was how I got to work for Stephen Falk. He eventually won the prize as the best international decorator. He got it from Queen Elizabeth. She invited him for high tea the afternoon.
Were you there also?
No. His father went with him. After he got his prize to the Buckingham Palace. And as he was walking into the Buckingham Palace, his father, who was a specialist doctor, said to him, "Stephen, just please remind me, what is it that you're actually doing?"
How old was he at that time?
He was a very clever man. He was a medical specialist, but he was not obviously as interested in interior design that Stephen was. And he won the Andrew Martin Prize for the Saxon Hotel that he did at the time, which is an international award.
So what are some of the projects that you've done that you're very proud of, that are like stick on your memory? Like every time when you're thinking of your art as an interior designer, you like, these are the moments that I'm proud of.
That's a difficult question because, I already started in the 80s.
Yeah.
One of my highlights, obviously, is I fixed one of my own homes, sold it, and on the show day, I had people that said to me, what must we do so that we can get this house? There was a lot of demand for the specific house. And I said, just pay the price. And then the one lady that was there said, "But I'm single, I can't afford it. But please come and help me with my own house."
Yeah.
So I was invited, and I must tell you, I only realized in 2015 who this lady was. We became friends. She was such a role model, and she was such, vibrant person. She was a dietitian, and her son always used to be there as well, and what can I say? It was Elon Musk's mother.
Oh my God.
I didn't know. I didn't know. And I wanted to visit her in New York when I went there, and it was so hard to find her, I couldn't get hold of her. And I only realized later who she was. But after every man, there's a woman. And let me tell you something, Elon Musk has a formidable mother behind him, and I'm sure that's. I remember he was busy on the computer. I just knew the high-frame computers at the SABC. And I was looking at this computer. I didn't have my own computer at that stage. I only owned my first computer, laptop. Not even a laptop, a proper computer. About 2 or 3 years after that, I was,
Wow. The kind of work that you do is
and I also, the other job I'm quite proud of, I assisted a very good friend of mine's husband. He was at BHP Billiton, and he became the CEO of Samancor. So I've got it and did, the offices. When you work with clients, there's always input. In my language, there's a saying that 2 heads are always better than one, if I translate it accurately. So your best projects always come when heads are putting together. It's very arrogant to say it's only you. You have to work with your client. You have to establish what your clients' taste is too.
So when did you realize that interior designing is your passion?
It happened very early in my life. I would play in my mother's drawers, I would pack it right, I would decorate her house. And when I was in school hostel, I used to take the magazines that was thrown out, and I would cut the pictures out, have a file. Funny enough, lots of those dreams that I had, I later did implement in my own houses. And then I wanted to go and study interior designing at the Technikon. I wasn't allowed to do that. I was academically, my marks were strong enough to go to university, so that was a bit forced down my throat. And then when I got the opportunity to work with Stephen Falk, I went to him and I actually said to him, I'll work for him free of charge. It was the best decision I've ever made in my life.
Yeah.
Because I saw how he was running his business. There's lots of people that say to me, we love interiors, we love art, but it's a business. You can't do a home for somebody if you don't know how to run a business, because you're going to lose money. You must know how to quote, you must know how to ensure that they pay you at the end of the day. So all that techniques I've learned from Stephen Falk, he learned it from Lionel Levine, so I was very blessed. And then later on, I met Robert Desfontaine. He imported from France. We went to an exhibition, a show in Paris, from where goods were imported. I loved that. So that was retail. And that's how I eventually opened Il Giardino Decor, because I've learned from the best people. And even with Robert Desfontaine, when I went to him, when I spoke to him in my first interview, I said to him, I'm not going to expect you, because he just started his business. I'm not going to expect a huge salary from you. And the training that I got from Stephen Falk and Robert Desfontaine were far better than I ever got at Stellenbosch University, because it was practical. It learned me about business.
So tell me about, you worked with the very notable clients like Nelson Mandela's lawyer.
Nelson Mandela's lawyer bought one of my houses. Finkai Salmon, if I remember his name correct. And the senior advocate from the Zondo Commission was Paul Pretorius. He also bought one of my houses. And he's still my neighbour here, and his ex-wife is still my friend in Onres. So it's a career where you learn to know people and you build good relationships with them, because you spend a lot of time in their homes.
Wow. So can you share your principles when you come to interior designing?
To me, interior designing is like doing maths.
Wow.
I'm not one of these people that can just go and stand and start doing a painting. I'm not that creative. But I use my thinking, I balance things. I use the rule of interior design. I work with a budget. I make sure that I get paid, that I can pay my suppliers. So when I do a project, it's never a mess. I must say I did started studying towards an MBA when my son was in matric, so that also helped. I'm more business-minded, orientated than what I'm creative. I can do flowers, as you know. I do. I remember at my 50th birthday party, somebody said, if she thinks about me, it's all about making things pretty.
Yes.
But I'm more realistic than that. I realize that it must be done according to business principles.
Yes. I'll agree. Your work is incredible. I remember you held a Valentine's thingy, not party, but it was more of like you were teaching more than 60 women how to do decorations. And that went so well. And everybody who knew you, they actually gave a testimony about the kind of work that you've done for them before. How does it feel when you get those compliments about the work that you've been putting out?
You know, when I was married, I was always in my husband's shadow. I was the wife behind my husband. I did the offices. I did give his company. I differentiated his company. So I did good work for them. But it was never about me. I was never the one that was fulfilled. I was behind the scenes. I was at home. I brought up my children. And as I said, it was extremely strict. Nothing I ever did was good enough, I felt. It made a contribution. Of course, it made a contribution to do things as good as I possibly can.
Yeah.
But after he left me, I only came to my own right, taking into account that I got married when I was 20. It was suddenly Grieta. It was no longer Dwayne or Gendra's mother. It was no longer Llewellyn Park's wife.
Do you think that's when you find your purpose? That was the moment you find your purpose?
Oh, yes.
Wow.
Oh, yes. And, you know, I've had an award-winning restaurant for 13 years. And my core competence was the functions I've done. The flowers, the weddings, everything was beautiful. We ended up being photographed on a weekly basis. There's not a soapy that didn't use us as a venue. The staff were happy because people would take pictures when they arrived. I'm not the best cook. You know, there were lots of people that could cook better pastas than I did. I remember one night standing in front of the dam in the courtyard because I was cross with God for giving me a restaurant in the beginning. I thought, oh my word, I've never even been a waitress. I'm an interior decorator. And I remember standing there and I just had this small, still voice saying, but you can make things pretty.
Wow.
You love music. Yes. So within a week, I went to the flower market. I painted. I did everything I could. It became such a pretty place. I signed a contract with a band to play for the next 3 months. And after 3 months, nobody cared about my food or my pizzas. People queued. I couldn't get place in my own restaurant on Friday nights, Saturdays, on Sundays sometimes. We were packed.
Wow. So would you say you were offering more of experience than anything else?
Yeah, my strategy was never to be the cheapest. I never competed on price. My strategy was also not, but although what I did do, that was the right thing. I got away by using chefs and their recipes. I used very much like Spur, very much like McDonald's. They make the same thing over and over and over. So your chances of making a mistake is not so high. And because I'm not a chef myself, I used to follow that principle, using food that's I know tastes well, that's been made over and over, for which people used to come back to the restaurant. And then when I had special functions, I would be at the pass myself and decorate the food. So people would get amazing plates of food, well decorated, but I knew that the chances of making a mistake in the kitchen, because you must remember we feeded a lot of people to put out food for 350 people when they were standing. I sometimes had 500 people. It's a lot of work. There were also quiet days, Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays during the week wasn't as busy. So it was also a balance, to be able to serve so many people. And I ended up working 2 shifts which was quite hard for me because I could never neglect.
Especially as a mother. And
Yeah.
how were you jungling between being a mother? Because as much as your children were a little bit older at that time, but you were still a mother. How did you jungle between being a mother and a businesswoman at that time?
I was very blessed in the sense that both my sons could do the MBAs on the business.
Wow.
And, they've learned a lot. It wasn't the best industry for them, to end up in, because it's not a place where you work from 8 to 5. It's not corporate hours. It's not a corporate environment.
Yeah.
But my oldest son did end up with Checkers Food Services, where he became the manager. He became an expert when it comes to wines, South African wines. He became an expert on ingredients. The two of us had the wonderful opportunity to travel to New York and to investigate food trends there, and buying recipe books, going to markets, going to good restaurants, etc. So to me, that was a big blessing that I could contribute to their careers. They're not in the restaurant industry anymore. Genre was also very, very involved when I was with Il Giardino. Decor, he has a good eye. He can see and spot a valuable second-hand, because I always, I didn't like new. I always enjoyed going to charity shops, to auctions, and that part of the journey he very much shared with me. He established, when the economy started going down a little bit, he helped me to start a takeaway shop, helped me to establish the decor shop. So yeah, my sons were very much involved. One was also helping with the administrative side of the decor shop. So both of them were very involved.
Wow.
And yeah, they both got MBAs on the business, and I'm very proud of that. And today they're out there, they're free, they can do whatever they want to with their careers.
Yeah. So would you say, when it comes to destiny helpers, you would really say they are one of the people that are actually part of your destiny helpers?
My sons?
Yeah.
Very much so.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so something that you mentioned earlier, or you mentioned that El Giardino Decor was actually on the flights, on each and every advertisement around. What do you think made El Giardino to be literally to separate itself to other competitors?
There's a lot of other good companies as well. I can't take all the honor because, I can only speak for, our own experience and being blessed that people chose us for wonderful, wonderful functions. As I say, we didn't do, I'm not the best chef, but I'm good when it comes to doing the flowers, doing attractive food, putting flowers, decorating the place. So people would come, and it was an experience to be at Il Giardino.
Wow.
And I must also tell you, God gave me Il Giardino. The day that my husband decided that he wants
Divorce.
not so much a divorce, he just wanted the opportunity to pursue his own happiness. He was in his 50s and he wanted more from life than what I could give him. One of the things that I never could give him was a big family. I was an only child and I only had 2 children. And I'm good with friends and networks, and my boys always had lots of friends. But he more enjoyed the stability of having a family who he sees every weekend. That's not something that I could offer him. And so when he left me, I went and I prayed, and my credit card didn't have money in, and I was suddenly on my own. And I prayed to God. I said, I don't have a work with a regular income, and I don't, because with decor you have a deposit, then your client pays just before delivery. Things could take 3 months before they paid. So I didn't have that regular cash flow anymore. And then they only paid after they were really happy with the project. So there was always 3 payments. There was never just a monthly check. When I flew back after that pre next to the sea, I was invited within 12 hours for coffee. And this invitation ended up to be in the restaurant. It was the first time that I've ever been to 44 Standing, and I didn't know, and that was serendipity, didn't know I would own the business. And as I was sitting there, Robert Desfontaine walked past, asked me to become an interior decorator with him. But the crux is that within 12 hours after returning back to Johannesburg, I had a job, and God was just ever present in my life. And even during those 13 years, I did a wedding for a minister. And I know that ministers don't earn lots of money, not in South Africa in any way. And so I did it for him at cost. And then when he wanted to say thank you to me, he asked me, can you pray for me? And I said, please, because, you know, the business was a case of no pain, no gain.
Yeah.
It was not just moonshine and roses. So I appreciated his prayer. And during the prayer, he said to me, I want you to have a party. Within, say, 65 days. This party, and you must invite me, this party ended up being on my birthday.
Wow.
And on that day, there was a senior advocate that were prepared to lock his office for the day to come to this party. And I started getting a lot of competitions. People wanted to put music and think it will make their restaurant work. They wanted to do certain things I've done, think it will work. But they didn't have the blessing of God.
Wow.
And it was just this terrible noise. And this senior advocate said to me, I'm no longer going to allow them to bully you like that, because they were always working against me. So when the senior advocate helped me, my landlord decided that if I don't want to keep the lease, I can get out of the lease. And you know, I wrote pages and pages of pros and cons, and I decided to close the restaurant. I winded the restaurant down. I moved out, got everything right for the end of the financial year. COVID started, and you know, it was because we seated so many people, I simply couldn't afford the fixed cost. My fixed cost, I calculated, was more than $500,000 per month. And everybody that ever did me harm in my business ended up owning this business when COVID started. And, you know, if I was new age, I would believe in karma, and I would say, but, you know, be careful what you sow. But I'm just thankful that it was no longer my fixed costs to pay every month, and that I didn't have the obligations, because I would have lost so much paying a lease, paying municipal accounts. And to me, it was my second miracle. My first miracle was how I got the business, and my second miracle was when the business was taken from me.
Hectic. Another thing that I realize is there's a level of leadership that you have going on that it even inspires people that work for you. They even want to keep on working for you or with you. We went to the restaurant the other time. We went to your previous restaurant the other time, and literally your main chef was there, but your main chef has to sneak to say, hey, when you open another restaurant, make sure that you call me, because I still want to. What do you think it is that you give to these people that these people still want to just cling to you? because there are a lot of people that employed us in the past. You don't want to meet them anymore. You don't even want to like mingle with them because of their treatment or their certain way, the way they lead us. So what is it about your leadership that you think keeps on drawing these people back to you?
It is true. I often have people that wants me to open a restaurant again and work for me again. But it's always been like that. I do not manage from the top. I always feel like it's a business is like a staircase. You start at the bottom, next step, next step. Everything that the staff did, I could also do. There were some of the chefs that thought I can cook better than them. It's not true. Even the pizza guy thought I can make a pizza. I tried. I can make a pizza, but flip, that spade is so slippery when you put it into the oven. That's not so easy.
Yeah.
I knew how to do their work. And what was amazing was when we did flowers for the functions, I would go to the market, and when I came back, they were waiting to take the flowers out. They always said to me, until they knew me, they never saw the beauty of a flower. And then they couldn't wait to help me to carry it out. We would go, and I had some strong, beautiful staff with muscles, and going to gym, they also played soccer against each other on the off days. And they were really strong and perfect, men, especially the women as well were beautiful, but the men loved doing flowers. So we would stand on a Friday night or the previous evening before the function, we would stand and we would do the flowers together. So I would make a pot and on they would go and do flowers. And it's not normal. Men don't do it. That was our teamwork. If it was Easter, we would have Easter eggs and we would have buns, and we often had meals or just little traditions that we celebrated. Christmas, I got a present, not the best present, and I remember the car guards as well, because that's the other thing I did. Never brought senior people in from the outside. You start in the scullery, you can learn whatever you want. We will train you. You can choose, do you want to be a barman? Do you want to make pizzas? Do you want to make salads? They could choose. And then I would promote them. If they wanted to become waiters, it was their responsibility to learn. I would promote them. And then the new guy had to start in the scullery. So, there was fulfillment. I remember that when there was crises, death, when there was illness, I would often say, stay at home. And they would say, no, we'll rather come to work. And they would sit somewhere in a nice space, be between their friends, be in a beautiful environment. It was a beautiful place. And we all miss the fact that COVID so drastically interfered in our lives. But I believe that was also for a purpose.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
So after you closed Eldridino due to COVID, how don't you feel like you still want to go back there? Or did you just get over it?
No, I mourned. And I cried, and I missed it, and no, it was not easy. I really mourned.
Yeah.
But it never, the right open door and the right opportunity just never came. I went down to Hermanus. I stayed there for close to 2 years.
Ish.
Fixed the house in Hermanus. It was COVID. I couldn't get in contractors. I also didn't have...
Did you have to fix the house yourself?
I did it with 2 gardeners. Exactly the same. Worked with them. Taught them myself, and the 3 of us during COVID fixed the house, and it's pretty. I'm proud of it. I also met one of my husband's ex-classmates. He also studied civil engineering. He eventually moved into the office that I did for BHP Billiton, the executive offices. He became the CEO then. So I assisted him. We did a dream layout for a house and planned the house. And that gave me the opportunity to visit all the showrooms, update myself again. I worked very narrowly with the architect because I did the layout.
Yeah.
And then after that, I interviewed 7 architects. And I said, what is the shell going to look like, what you will put around my layout? And I eventually found a nice guy. I loved his wife. I loved his little boy. And we sat working together, planning the house, and the house has been completed. And it's a very beautiful property that's on the sea. I still talk to him virtually every day, the owner of the house, and it gave me fulfillment, and it updated my knowledge again. And then I started doing some work to my own house. I'm still busy. You see the cottages, you see the quality of housemates that lives with me.
Can you talk about that?
Yeah.
Yes. Tell me something about you. I won't say it's actually about you, because literally you attract who you are. The kind of people that you attract is always people of kind of like influence. What is it about it? Do you pray? Is there a certain prayer that you make to say, God, this kind of people that I want my way? Or is it just something that you give out and you just happen to be getting it back?
I was in Jerusalem and I got baptized for the 3rd time.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to get baptized where Jesus was baptized. And when I came out, the minister said to me, I must go to Jerusalem and meet him. He has something he said to me. And he said to me, you know what? You were very upset because you got a business. You didn't want a restaurant. You wanted to be an interior decorator. Got the restaurant because I basically borrowed somebody money and then they couldn't pay the money back, so I took the restaurant. And it just flew because of the decorating and the combination of food. He said, and you often complain, but God prepared you. If a businessman also, because of studying towards an MBA, I learned to understand the business language. And he said to me, when somebody speaks to you now, you have empathy for them. You understand, because it's very lonely up top. It's not easy to be rich. It's much easier to stand at a robot. But when you're rich, you also said, your uncle said to you, it's lonely at the top. You don't always have somebody to talk to.
Yeah.
And it's basically, I do understand the business language. I know what they go through. I've also been through this, and I have empathy. And I set a long table, and people sit around the table, and I listen to them. And I am blessed.
Thank you so much, Mom, for sharing your story.
Yeah.
So another thing before we wrap up, I just want to know, what is it that you want to tell the youngsters that want to launch into, whether it be like business, any kind of business, or even if it's about interior design in particular? What is it that they need to know or they need to put their minds to for them to be able to achieve?
If you don't dream, you can't achieve it. And I'm going to send you a photo of a Cape Dutch home where I made a photostat, I painted it with coffee, and then I must also take a photograph of my house, which is very much the colour of coffee, and which is a Cape Dutch house. If I never dreamed it, I would never pushed.
Wow.
So you must push, and you don't give up after a year or 2 years. You keep on and on and on. You need consistency in a career. I find that people want to work for 6 months, and then they want to work for a year, then 2 years, and a rolling stone gathers no moss. If I look back in my career, in my life for that matter, the regrets I have, the only regrets I have, are the times that I've been reactive, and where I reacted to emotions, where I got cross with people, but the one habit I don't have is I don't attack the person, I attack what they've done. But still, I could have maybe done it more tactfully. Although I also don't know, managing a business and you trying to pursue excellence and somebody is negligent and on purpose not doing their work, there is a balance. You have to discipline people. It's the same with children. You can't always say, oh, nice, when they actually are naughty. So that, I don't think I always got that balance right. So that's my only regret. But I do know that people are important to me. I listen to people. And I think good relationships with people and being genuine, not using and abusing people. The most important thing is to think right. And you know me quite well. I always think and think and think, am I thinking right? I do look into myself.
And you take time when it comes to decisions. You take your time.
Yeah, I want to make sure that I'm right, that I'm not thinking wrong about whatever. So I think to renew our minds with the Word of God and not to be impulsive. Sometimes what we're impulsive about isn't going to matter a year from now. Is to always ask yourself, is this still going to be important a year from now? As I'm saying, my regrets in life are the times that I haven't treated people with respect, where I haven't honored people. That is what I think is most important, is to honor people, to love people, and to be able to say you're sorry and to look into yourself. I know that when my husband left me, I was told that I went to 7 different churches. It was for me. It was good for my growth.
Thank you so much, Mom Grieta, for taking your time to chat with us. And also, thank you so much for sponsoring this whole show with your venue. We really appreciate it. This is a beautiful house.
Thank you.
We believe you're going to have a good time here shooting all of these episodes that are coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure.
That was Grieta PIKE, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you so much. See you on the next episode. Ciao.
Bye.
AfricaUSARadio.com, home of African Gospel. Ekhaya.